Hi, welcome back to a Black and White channel. Today we are going to explore the Black Regiment, also known as the Black Robe Regiment. I did not learn about this in school. It wasn't until later in life that I learned about these men who played a very important role in the founding of our country. So I'm going to head out to the swing instead of sit here because it's kind of hot, and sit out and swing and enjoy speaking to you about this really cool topic that I found some information about, and I'll share some resources too. So be there in a minute. And if you haven't already, please click subscribe to be notified of, click subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified of my next videos. Alright. Hey! Okay. As I noted in my opening, today I thought I'd talk about the Black Robe Regiment. I was thinking the other day about the Black Regiment, also known as the Black Robe Regiment. I'd heard of them but only knew a little bit about the topic. When you dig into it a little, it really shows a huge disparity between today's modern preachers with their 18th century counterparts. The term was coined by the British, and it referred to the American clergy, many of whom wore black robes, hence the term. Specifically, the British laid our independence at the feet of the Black Regiment. Historians have noted that, quote, there is not a right asserted in the Declaration of Independence which had not been discussed by the New England clergy before 1763, end quote. And it wasn't just the British who saw the influence of the pulpits on the conscience of the people. Our founders witnessed the same thing. John Adams has been quoted as saying that, quote, the pulpits have thundered, end quote, specifically naming some of the preachers as responsible for being among the, quote, most conspicuous, the most ardent, and influential, end quote, in the, quote, awakening and a revival of American principles and feelings, end quote, that led to American independence. In the American Quarterly Register magazine, 1833, so this is a while after 1776, we learn that, quote, as a body of men, the clergy were preeminent in their attachment to liberty. The pulpits of the land rang with the notes of freedom, end quote. In 1856, the Bibliotheca Sacra, a British periodical, it said, quote, if Christian ministers had not preached and prayed, there might have been no revolution as yet, or had it broken out, it might have been crushed, end quote. This is from the British, okay, the ones we left. Okay, are you listening to this? Do you hear this? What does this say about the duty of the church in this age? Charles G. Finney, an American Presbyterian minister and leader in the Second Great Awakening in the United States, is known as, quote, the father of modern revivalism, end quote. So in Finney's day, he said, we need more Boanerges, or sons of thunder, in the pulpit. Now pay attention to this next quote. If Satan rules in our legislation, the pulpit is responsible for it. If our politics become so corrupt that the very foundations of government are ready to fall away, the pulpit is responsible for it. Everybody's so busy pointing fingers at this, that, and the other candidate, this, that, and the other senator, whatever. Guess what? It's the people. The preachers and the people. Because it's the people who select the preachers. Anyway, what, dear friends, should today's modern preachers do? Surely we're facing more fierce attacks on our liberties now than did our founders or our ancestors. Right, no, I'm joking. We, the people, are squandering our liberties and privileges that our ancestors fought so hard to secure for us. For what? A little safety? Life isn't safe, so to pretend otherwise is foolish. Besides, don't you know that your heart is in the hand of your Creator? Every breath you take has been foreordained. If He has something for you to do, God, don't you think He'll be able to ensure your safety, O ye of little faith, until you can do the works that have been prepared for you? Ephesians 2:10 says, quote, we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. End quote. On July 4th, I thought today, since we're so close to the 4th, actually the 4th has just happened, okay? July 4th, 1794, which is not long after we became separated from England, a preacher, he gave a sermon in commemoration of our independence. The title of his sermon was "The Happiness of a Free Government and the Means of Preserving It." The man was Joseph Lathrop. He was ordained as the pastor of the Congregational Church in West Springfield, Massachusetts, and he was there for decades. He taught from Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 21, and this is what it reads. Their prince, and he's talking in this chapter and verse, Jeremiah is talking about Israel. Their prince shall be one of themselves, their ruler shall come out from their midst. I will make him draw near, and he shall approach me. For who would dare of himself to approach me, declares the Lord. And I'll include a link to the sermon and all the things I talk about today. I'm going to include it in the link below, or in the description below. This sermon, read the whole thing, because it's really, really neat. And you get a good insight as to how people thought, how preachers thought, and people. In his sermon, Lathrop expounds on why our form of government is the best option. He talks about we always had kings and how that doesn't work out and it makes no sense, but he talks about how a republic makes the most sense, modeled on the original government that God himself created for mankind, for his people, I should say. Okay, in his sermon, Lathrop expounds on why our form of government is the best option, but what I'd like to point out is the remarks he uses about what is necessary for our government to work. Okay? Now, I think we can all agree our government's broken right now. A people governed by their brethren have their privileges in their own hands. They can put a check in growing aristocracy and despotism by a seasonable transfer of their important trusts. In free states, power at certain periods reverts to the people from whom it originated. If they find it has been abused and perverted, they can redress themselves by placing it in other hands. In such states, rulers are bound by the laws which they enact and are subject to the burdens which they impose. They are responsible for their conduct, inferior officers to superior, these again to those who are higher in the scale of government, and all in the last resort to the people. This is a great security against abuse of power. Besides, when the people have a voice in the appointment of their own rulers, it may be presumed that till a general corruption prevails, both in the people and in our government, men of approved ability, virtue, and integrity will be raised to public honors. What motive but their own good can the people have in delegating power? And to whom should they delegate it but to those who will use it for this end? So you have to have a just and moral people to have a just and moral government. It's just simple. Because those in the government should be pulled out and are, in most cases, pulled out from among the people themselves. A people under a free government will be happy as long as they are virtuous and wise. That is the people and the government. The people in the government. They may become vicious and corrupt. They are then liable to be influenced by private connections, party spirit. My team's better than your team, right? Bribery or flattery. Promises of rewards are the artifice and intrigue of crafty and designing men. Yeah, I think we've got that going on. When this is the case, they give up their security, lose their liberty, and sink into slavery, which is what we've got now, my friend. To frame and reform their own government and to choose and change their own governors, it is the natural right, aka God-given right, of mankind, but a right which few nations have the happiness to enjoy or the boldness to claim. These American states are now in the full possession and free exercise of this right, and may they ever have the wisdom to retain it. Our government, in its principles, is perhaps sufficiently liberal and democratic for so large a people, but all government tends to despotism. Power, as well as property, has its temptations. No man possesses so much of either that he is willing to acquire more. There is the same reason why people should guard their public privileges, as why each man should guard his private property. The same reason why they should inspect the conduct of their public servants to prevent encroachment, as why a merchant should watch over his clerk or fact to prevent embezzlement. Well, we're being stolen from left and right, and because we get so many benefits from the government, many of us do, we're willing to look the other way. We have been bought out, my friend. And there goes. Yeah. Okay. Our free government was a happy but a costly purchase. It cost people their lives, their property, their position and standing in life. Let it not be lost by drowsy inattention. Oh, politics is so boring, I don't talk about politics. And implicit confidence. Oh, well, they're going to do what's right for us, irregardless of the fact that they get millions of dollars to, look the other way, whatever. How a free government may be preserved is a just inquiry. It's a very good question to ask. In this case, we need to think about how we can reinstate it, but anyway. He goes on, he talks about one thing is frequent elections. So we've got the right and we've reserved the right to frequent elections. No longer should the same persons be trusted with the powers of legislation than while they appear to pursue the true interests of their constituents. So you get to stay in office as long as you're doing what we want you to do. You see how it's so important for the people to be just and virtuous, more than wicked and depraved? By attempts to violate the Constitution and invade the liberties of the people, they forfeit the public confidence. You don't support the Constitution, you're out of there. That's the way it's supposed to be. I don't care what kind of promises you make me. Among a free people, power of any kind should never be committed to men who are under a foreign influence. Hello, dual citizenship. Hello, contributions through PACs from many multiple governments. Russia, Israel, Saudis. What goes on? I don't care who you are. This is what's going on. So, from whatever source that influence may arise, power in such hands is the power of foreigners who don't care about our country. Hello, what do we have right now? Among a free people, power of any kind should never be committed. Oh, I already read that, sorry. Against this danger, the Constitution which God framed for Israel particularly guarded. They might not take a stranger to rule over them. That's a simple little rule. But unfortunately, we have people that are not foreigners, that are born here in America, who hate our country and want to tear it down. I'm not talking about just among the people. I'm talking about in leadership. Okay. Great care should be taken that our rulers, especially our legislators, have not interests disconnected with and opposite to that of the people. That's a no-brainer, you would think. While they have only a common interest with their constituents, they will, for their own sakes, consult the general happiness. But these people, they live in a different realm, so to speak. When their interest becomes separate and independent, this security is lost, and we don't have it. And it's indifferent whether they proceed from the midst of us or are sent to us from another country. To prevent a declension of government into aristocracy, which is what we have with the quote-unquote elite, I hate using that word, the rewards for public services should be moderate. Yeah, moderate. It is pleaded that by high rewards we shall commend the services of our best men, but our best men have other motives and will be content with reasonable rewards. So if they have the motive of protecting the best interests of their people, then they're fine. We should be solicitous not only to call good men into government, but to keep them while they are there as good as we found them. PAC money, lobbyists. It is unhappy when we offer such temptations as corrupt the most virtuous. The preservation of liberty depends much on the state of peace. War will introduce a standing army which we were not supposed to have according to the Constitution. Period. That's just the way it is. Increase the number of dependents on government. Man, was this guy like a fortune teller? Was he like a prophet? No, he just understood men and their depravity and their tendency towards corruption. He was a student of human nature, and he was a student of history, something which is sorely lacking in today's schools. A large national debt tends to despotism. Hello, trillion-dollar deficit. It oppresses the people, affords pretext for inventing new modes of taxation, and for opening new sources of revenue, gives opportunity for secret misapplications, aka dark money, and disunites the interests of the rulers from that of the people. It was there all along. 1794, this preacher, yeah. This fantastic sermon goes on and on. Read it and you'll see exactly where we as a nation have gone wrong. He points out, the preacher, one thing after another that should have been guarded against to secure our liberties, but alas, our ancestors and we have not been careful in this regard. So what would a Black Robe Regiment look like now? In today's world, there are so many resources out there about the role a church should play in today's society. The mantra, separation of church and state, which has been so taken out of context it's not even funny. It's nothing but a clarion call to fill our churches with cowardly pastors who are afraid of losing their status, their money, their position. So they refuse to speak out against the government, and they teach the flocks to do the same thing. Oh, look over here. God wants your best. For you, your best. Whatever. It's also a call to fill the roles of government with greedy, wicked men and women who seek to serve themselves only, not the citizens who have entrusted them for their common good. So, friend, if you are a Christian and you have a church home, I want you to share these links with your preacher. Be talking to him about this. Liberty is how God created us. It is up to us to fight for it and preserve it. Your preacher, he should already know that he's been put in charge by God to take care of the flock for your spiritual needs. But also, he's to be taking care of your physical needs by helping you out when you need it. The church is supposed to do this. This is what we've been called to do, help the widows and the orphans. But he's also supposed to guard against the wolves. And we have plenty of wolves that are after us. Both those that come from within us and from outside of us. So if he's taking care of your spiritual life, many aren't, then you'll be able to keep the wolf at the door. In other words, your nature towards sin. That dirty word that people don't like to hear, but it's true. Sin. So, I could go on and on and on, but take a look at these links, please. They're just really, it's really cool. History is one of those things that I never really paid much attention to in school because they always made it so boring, but really when you read it, and especially you read the words written by the people that helped to form this nation, written by people that have gone before us, you would be amazed at what you can learn, and you could be amazed at how they saw this coming a mile away. So if we can read it and understand it, then we too can see what's coming up a mile away. So God bless you. If you haven't already, please click subscribe and hit the notification bell. If you have any comments or questions or ideas about how we can encourage our preachers to become part of the countrywide, worldwide maybe, Black Robe Regiment, I would love to hear it. So until then, until next time, have an awesome day. God bless you. And look up for your redemption draws near, close. He's at the door. So be prepared. Ready yourself. Have an awesome day. I'll catch you next time. Bye.